When the monkeypox outbreak hit, everyone was scared. The news was filled with images of sores, fevers, and the panic that came with every new case. I thought it was all overblown until I got sick. It started just like the news said it would, a mild fever, fatigue, and a strange rash on my arms. I tried to convince myself it was just a heat rash or an allergic reaction, but deep down, I knew what it was. I went to the doctor, expecting a quick diagnosis. They took one look at the rash and immediately ordered tests. As I sat in the sterile, white room, waiting for the results, my mind raced. I had been careful, no close contact, always wore a mask, sanitized everything. But none of that mattered now. The doctor returned with a solemn expression and confirmed what I had feared: monkeypox. I was sent home with instructions to quarantine and monitor my symptoms. They told me to rest and let the virus run its course. But something about the way the doctor looked at me before I left made me uneasy. It was as if he knew something I didn't. The first few days were rough, but manageable. The rash spread across my body and I felt weak and feverish. But it was nothing I couldn't handle. I kept telling myself it would be over soon. But on the fourth night, something changed. I woke up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat. My skin felt like it was on fire, and the rash. It wasn't just a rash anymore. The small, pimple-like bumps had grown into large, painful blisters that oozed a thick, black fluid. I stumbled to the bathroom, my vision blurry with fever. I could barely recognize the person staring back at me in the mirror. My face was pale, my eyes sunken, and the blisters were spreading across my skin like wildfire. I tried to clean them, but the fluid seemed to cling to my hands, burning like acid. Panic set in as I realized something was very, very wrong. I called the hospital, desperate for help. They told me to stay calm and wait for an ambulance. As I sat there, trembling, I noticed something else, something moving under my skin. At first, I thought it was just the fever making me hallucinate, but then I saw it again. A small ripple just beneath the surface, like something was crawling inside me. The ambulance arrived, and the paramedics took one look at me before rushing me to the hospital. Their faces were hidden behind masks and shields, but I could see the fear in their eyes. They didn't speak to me, just wheeled me into a sterile room and left me alone. The doctors and nurses who came in were distant, cold, treating me like I was some kind of biohazard. The tests they ran were endless: blood work, scans, biopsies of the blisters. No one would tell me what was happening, just that they were doing everything they could. I was left alone in that room for hours, maybe even days, with nothing but the sound of my own labored breathing and the relentless burning under my skin. It wasn't until one of the nurses came in late at night that I finally got some answers. She was young, her eyes wide with fear as she approached my bed. She told me in a hushed voice that my case was unlike anything they'd seen before. The virus, it wasn't just attacking my skin. It was mutating, changing, and something was growing inside me. I didn't understand at first. How could a virus grow? But the nurse pulled out a scan of my body and I saw it. Tiny, writhing shapes clustered around my organs, moving, feeding off me. They weren't just under my skin anymore. They were inside me, spreading like a cancer. The doctors didn't know what to do. They isolated me, treated me like a lab specimen, poking and prodding, trying to figure out what was happening to me. But the blisters kept growing, and the things inside me, whatever they were, became more active. I could feel them moving, burrowing deeper into my flesh, and the pain was unbearable. I lost track of time, of how long I'd been in that hospital bed, writhing in agony. The doctors tried experimental treatments, antiviral drugs, even surgery to remove the infected tissue, but nothing worked. The virus, or whatever it was, had taken over my body and I was dying. But I wasn't dying alone. On the last night, as the pain reached its peak, I felt a tearing sensation deep inside me. I screamed, but no sound came out. The blisters burst open, and the things inside me spilled out, small, dark, and writhing, like worms made of shadows. They swarmed over my body, and I could feel them crawling up my throat, filling my mouth, suffocating me. The last thing I saw before everything went black was the nurse, standing in the doorway, her eyes wide with horror as the shadows enveloped me. I woke up in darkness, surrounded by silence. I wasn't in the hospital anymore. I was somewhere else, somewhere cold and empty. The pain was gone, but so was everything else. I was alone, trapped in this dark, featureless void, with nothing but the echo of my own breathing. And then from the darkness, I heard it, a low hissing sound, like something was slithering toward me. I tried to run, but there was nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. The shadows closed in, and I realized the truth. I wasn't alone in this void. I was never alone. I thought I had monkeypox. I was wrong. It was something far, far